They're going to come and do a session on crisis intervention. And I think anyone that's done that or anyone that's prayed for someone in need, you kind of know we need to take care of ourselves as well. And so they have a lot of information for you. I'd like to welcome Lieutenant Aaron McLaughlin and posse member Jill Knapp.
My name is Jill, and I have been with the Sheriff's Office now for 5 years. A little bit closer, sorry. I have been with the Sheriff's Office for 5 years now. I started in their Victim Service Unit, and then I also joined their peer support team, and now I do posse as well. So I've been doing all of that for the last 5 years, and it's the most rewarding experience I've ever had. But in the process, we've also, ran into a lot of stuff that we need to help a lot of people out with, and lots of crisis. So that's kind of what we're here to talk about today, and kind of how to help you take care of yourself when you are dealing with people's crisis.
Oh, thank you, Jill. I am Lieutenant Aaron McLaughlin. I am in the patrol posse as well. I've been with the Sheriff's Office since 2010, so going on 15 years. Just a little bit about the patrol posse. We are a volunteer organization, so like Jill and I still work full-time jobs on top of volunteering at the Sheriff's Office. But through that, I have also gotten involved in peer support, and that's kind of become a passion for Jill and I. And with that, we have run into some cases of where we had to present some crisis intervention. But it has allowed us to go through a lot of training and things like that as well. So we're hoping to pass along a lot of our knowledge on that to you guys. Okay. We don't have a clicker, so we're winging it on the presentation here. Next slide, please. So before we get started, I just wanted to kind of share a little story with you on where my passion personally came from for crisis intervention. We had a posse member 4 years ago, I believe, who took his life. He died by suicide. And that put a spark in me because he was a close friend of mine. I saw a lot of the signs that he presented beforehand, but unfortunately, I couldn't force him to get the help that he didn't want to get. So through that, I've taken every class that I've been able to come across and get all the training in crisis intervention that I possibly could in hopes of never having to lose another life to that again. And that is where we hope to pass a lot of that along to you today, because through your drive-through prayer sessions, it is quite possible, if you haven't already, that you will come across someone in prayer. Some of the initial signs that you can look for when you first see these people. Now keep in mind that just because they display some or even several of these signs, it doesn't necessarily mean that they are in crisis, but these are things to look for. If they neglect their personal hygiene, it doesn't look like they've bathed in a while, their hair doesn't look like they've combed it, things like that. They might be fidgety or nervous. They are very jumpy and looking around constantly. Are they anxious or agitated easily? Maybe everything you say, they just kind of snap at you. Do they have a look of extreme tiredness? Have they not slept in quite a while? Do they grind their teeth when they're talking to you or when they're listening to you? These may all be signs, but they can also be signs of things like drug use and things like that as well. Next slide, please. So how do you start the conversation when you think someone might be in crisis? That's the hard part. And you guys are at a disadvantage because you're spending a very minimal amount of time with these people. You don't know them personally, so you don't know what their normal personality or behaviors are. So it can be hard to know where to go with it when you suspect something. Next slide. So some things that you can ask them. What brought them to you today? Why did they take that step and come to the drive-through prayer service? If they ask you to pray for something specific, go ahead and say that prayer with them. Don't try to pry too deep into anything initially. Go ahead and go down the path that they came to you for, and ultimately it will lead to what they are really there for. If you suspect that something's going on, a great question is to ask them how they've been sleeping. That opens a lot of doors to conversation, but you're not prying directly into their personal life and things that they may not be ready to tell you. You can ask if they have any friends or family nearby. It's important to know that they have somebody that they can go to if they do end up leaving you and you can't help them. Next slide. So some signs that they're in crisis, once you have a little longer contact with them, if you can get them to open up a little bit. If they say key phrases like, I just don't enjoy anything anymore. I just don't like any of the stuff that I used to like. I don't find happiness in anything. That's a red flag for crisis. Everyone would be better off without me. My family just doesn't even need me around. I should just disappear. They might talk about risky behavior. Maybe they are normally somebody who goes to church all the time and all of a sudden they're not going to church. Maybe all of a sudden they're gambling or they're drinking more than they normally do. Or they've gone down the road of trying illicit drugs, or even sex can be a trigger. They might admit to you that they have started drugs or alcohol suddenly. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're in crisis, but it definitely could be a sign. And even if they're not in suicidal crisis, it's a road that they don't want to go down. They might say things like, I just don't have any reason to go on. Everybody would be so much better off without me. Next slide, please. Do they seem or have they told you that they are feeling anxious or agitated? Do they feel like, have they said things like they're feeling hopeless, like there's no reason to live? Do they have lots of guilt and shame or failure? Those are all things that they might talk about that would be an indicator of crisis. Do they have a lot of rage or anger? Maybe they don't display that to you, but maybe they make statements about, I'm just so easily triggered these days. Everything irritates me. Everything makes me mad. Are they sad or depressed in a way that they're not normally? Again, you don't know these people, but they will make statements that will lead you to believe that. Maybe they talk about the fact that they're getting their affairs in order. This could be a sign they're planning for the end of their life. They might be talking about giving away their prized possessions, things that they collected and that they value, and all of a sudden they're giving them away. Maybe they're having severe mood swings, even in just the short interactions that you're having with them at your drive-through prayer service. They could be up and down. That's a sign that they could be in crisis. Maybe they're losing interest in their hobbies and all of the things that they loved before. That kind of goes back and ties into making statements about how they just don't feel joy in anything anymore. And again, they might talk about not being able to sleep. That is a key indicator. If you have established or you believe that someone is truly in crisis, what do? First, you immediately want to get another person with you. There should be 2 of you there. Call for emergency services. If you have to call 911, if you have the non-emergency number to your local police or sheriff's office, call that. Tell them what you suspect, and they will do a welfare check. If you can, keep them there with you talking. If you have already built that rapport, you keep them talking and have that second person call emergency services and pass along as much information as possible. Give them the license plate number of the vehicle that the person is in. If you do happen to know that person and you know where they live or you know some of their relatives, pass along that information to the emergency services as well. Try not to leave the person alone. Once it has become clear to you that the person is in contact, try to stay with that person. You can't hold them hostage. If they drive off, then that's where the emergency services will have to track down the address from the license plate number that you give them and hopefully able to make contact with them. But try to keep them talking. If they come to you and they've opened up that they are in crisis, it's because they're looking for help. People in crisis usually don't advertise it. They don't tell everybody that they want to end their life. So if they're coming to you, they're serious about it, but they want those thoughts to stop. They want help. They want you to stop them. If they're willing, have them park their vehicle. This is for your safety and theirs. You don't want them to all of a sudden become agitated and drive off when you're standing next to their vehicle. If they don't want to, don't press the issue. You can't keep them there. Just keep them talking as long as you can. Ask direct questions. If you suspect that someone's in crisis, then they probably are. If you've gotten to that point where you really fear that someone is going to hurt themselves, then they probably are having those thoughts. So be direct. Ask them, do you intend to harm yourself? Do you have a plan in place to harm yourself? Do you have means? Do you have a weapon? Do you plan to do it with pills? If someone actually intends to harm themselves, they have a whole plan in place. They've thought this through. So ask those direct questions and then relay as much of that information as possible onto the emergency services. What if they drive off? Take down their license plate. Relay the plate information and as much other details as you can to the emergency services. Keep yourself safe. We want to go over some tips because as much as we want to help somebody that's in crisis, the most important thing is to keep all of you safe. So what should you do? Approach every vehicle methodically. Slowly approach every vehicle at drive-through prayer. Don't just immediately walk up to the vehicle. Look in the back seat and as much of the vehicle as you can. You're looking for weapons or anything that might indicate that they plan to do someone harm. Notice their demeanor as you approach. Always have somebody else nearby to help if needed. Make sure that somebody at drive-through prayer has a phone so that you can call for help if needed. And always remember that that person you are talking to in the vehicle is a stranger. Even if it's someone from your local community that you feel like you know, you never know everything about someone. What should you not do? Never quickly approach the vehicle's window. You want to take in the surroundings and the person that you're approaching. Don't ignore the rest of the vehicle other than who's sitting in that driver's seat. Don't ever ignore the hair on the back of your neck. If that person is giving you an odd vibe, there's a reason for it. Listen to that. Never offer to give someone a ride anywhere. This is for your safety and for theirs. There has been a case that we were told about where someone did offer to give a ride, and it turns out the house that they took them to, the people in that home had a restraining order against the person that they gave a ride to. So now you've helped them commit an illegal act. You just don't know what thoughts are going through this person's head. Do not ever give them money. Have a list of community resources available that you can pass on to them. This is their best avenue for help. It will help them in the future. If you give them $20 now, it helps them for the next hour maybe, but what happens after that? Don't go down that road. Just give them the community resources so that they can start down a healthier path. Don't ever give out your personal information. All of you that do this because you have a giving heart. You want to care for people. You want to help people. But unfortunately, there's a lot of people out there that don't have good intentions. So just don't give out your personal information. And you do not have to put up with abusive behavior. It is okay to send them on their way if they're getting agitated and abusive towards you. You don't have to put up with that.
So we want to continue on. Obviously, we've given you the signs of what to look for if somebody's in a crisis and what things might possibly be happening and what signs to look for and stuff like that. The second part of this is really about talking about keeping you safe and keeping your mental health safe as well. So if you do have a situation where you are with somebody in a crisis that's behaving a certain way, then you want to try to de-escalate the situation. So always, always, always have somebody with you whenever you're at the car. Doing these by yourself is never really a good idea. I understand that there might be some confidentiality things and stuff like that, but always having a second person with you is the safest thing to do. You always want to use the last acronym if possible, right? Listen, apologize, solve, and thank. So you want to, I know that you guys have minutes with these people, and 99% of the time, everything's going to go smoothly and everything's going to be great. This is going to be a rare situation for you, but you do want to be mindful of these situations. So you want to listen to them and let them know that you're sorry for what they're going through, and you want to give them resources to help resolve their issues, and then thank them for stopping by. Try to placate them or validate their feelings, and that will also help with, the situation escalating and stuff like that. As long as you are validating what they're saying and stuff, whether you agree with it or not, odds are that it will keep them from getting to the boiling point. You do not have to take verbal abuse from these people. They're there asking for help on some level, but that's your job to try to help them if you can, but it's not your job to fix them or resolve their issue completely, and it certainly isn't your job to be verbally abused by them. So please don't tolerate that from anybody. And if things get super serious, then you absolutely never want to hesitate to call law enforcement. So if drugs are a situation that you encounter during these drive-thrus, then that's something that we can help you with as well. If people are turning drugs over to you, say a prescription drug or something of that nature, then you can take those to the sheriff's office. There are basically dumping bins that you can put the prescription drugs in, and we will dispose of them for you. If somebody gives you any type of illicit drugs, anything illegal like that whatsoever, you're absolutely welcome to call the non-emergency line, and they will send a deputy over to be able to take those from you. And so that way you have it documented and you don't have to worry about disposing it. We'll do that for you. No matter what you do, if anybody hands over drugs of any type, please use gloves, because you can absorb drugs through your skin. So always, always, always safety first. So things to have readily available. You always want to have a list of the community resources that you can hand out to people if you want to make copies of these, or if you want to just have them readily to give them the information. Always have a cell phone with you for emergencies. You might have to call 911 to give a license plate if somebody drives off, anything dangerous happens, if they try to hurt anybody. So you absolutely want to have a phone with you at all times. And then know who your backup people are. Always have somebody with you, and then know where other people are. You always want to be able to manage your safety and know who you can turn to get help from while you're in these drive-through prayers. So because you guys help so many people with a lot of serious things, then one thing that you want to keep in mind is don't forget about you and your self-care. Although what you do is incredibly kind and generous, you spend your time and your energies and your efforts and everything to help so many other people, which is what we do all the time. And there are times that Aaron and I both find ourselves feeling just a little bit burned out. You take on a lot of people's stuff, and so what you need to do is ensure that you are taking care of you. Self-care is absolutely paramount, especially when it comes to helping others in crisis or just daily troubles. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't have to be a full-blown crisis. Taking on other people's problems can start to wear on you. So the things that people do for self-care can be different for everybody. It might be hiking or exercising, taking your dog for a walk, or sitting down and reading a book. Whatever that looks like for you, please do that. Don't lose sight of what you need to do to take care of you and your mental health. Next slide, please. So a lot of times we will run into burnout whenever you have been doing a lot of drive-through sessions, and maybe you're feeling a little bit fatigued by it. Signs of burnout are loss of motivation, not really feeling like going and doing drive-through repair, maybe because you're just feeling so tired. Feelings of detachment, sense of failure in both abilities and accomplishments. All of a sudden, you're not feeling like you are doing something that makes a difference. Exhaustion, even after getting a full night's sleep. Increased irritability towards others. Inability to concentrate and get forgetfulness, and getting easily frustrated, even over trivial matters. And reduced performance both at work and at school. It's definitely something that you want to keep an eye on, and this is where self-care comes into play. As long as you're doing self-care and stuff like that, then you will run into burnout less. But if you are feeling these things, then just recognize these signs, and please reach out to someone and just make sure that you're kind of taking a step back to give yourself a break. So the things that you can do to combat burnout, the healthy side of things, obviously you want to stay hydrated. I'm a caffeine addict myself, so it's a little bit difficult sometimes whenever you're running on empty, but you want to make plenty of water. Vitamin D, definitely want to get a few minutes of sun and supplements if you can. Make sure you're eating well, sleeping well, and that you are getting a little bit of exercise, even if it's just a little bit of walking each day. These are just healthy steps that you want to take for yourself. Make sure that you have a strong support system, and I'm guessing that you guys all do. Just in this room alone, I'm sure that everybody could pick out 10 people that would be a huge support system for them. So always, always, always turn to your support system, because that's what they're there for, is to help you out. Having a healthy social life. So don't be buried at home all by yourself. Make sure that you're getting out amongst your friends. And then carving time out for yourself and that self-care stuff, whatever that looks like for you. And also, if you're feeling a certain way, or you start to feel burned out or overwhelmed, or a particular incident with somebody that you had a prayer drive-through moment with is weighing on you and is not moving on from your daily activities, you should be able to, process it and move on. If it's not, getting processed and moving past that, then you absolutely want to reach out and ask for help, because that means that you're kind of a little bit stuck on something, and you might need a little extra help for that, to process that. So compassion fatigue, that is something that we all, in this type of work, no matter how we're helping somebody, no matter what we're doing, you can get compassion fatigue. Compassion fatigue is the cost of caring for others and for their emotional pain resulting from the desire to help relieve the suffering of others, right? So that's what you guys are so great at. You're doing these drive-through repair services. You're trying to help people with their burdens and with their troubles and stuff like that. But after a while, that can start to weigh on you heavily. So just be aware of the signs of this. Be aware of things like vicarious trauma, where you are being traumatized by someone else's traumas. They're telling you these things because they need help with them, and that's okay. That's what we're there to do. But just know that this can have an effect on you as well. So you want to be mindful of these signs and when it's time to ask somebody for help. Mental health signs of compassion fatigue. So what this looks like is going to be emotional exhaustion. We all feel like that every once in a while, but this is something that you're going to see frequently. Apathy, cynicism. We run into that a lot in our line of work. So that's definitely something you want to keep an eye out for. Rumination over others' problems. So that's what I was talking about. You're not able to process it and move on past it. You're still kind of really, really focused on it. That's something you definitely want to reach out and get some help for. self-blame. You're blaming yourself because perhaps you couldn't get them the right resource, or you couldn't fix their issue for them, or anything like that. Definitely something to keep an eye out for. Irritability and or anger, feelings of helplessness or sadness, or feeling numb, and then negative changes in your worldview. These are all signs of compassion fatigue and just burnout in general. So these are things that you want to keep an eye out for. Know that you're feeling them and seek help with somebody. Just even sometimes talking about it can be a huge help. Physical signs of compassion fatigue look like problems with sleep. Maybe your mind won't stop working. Appetite changes, upset stomach, nausea, exhaustion, dizziness. These are all signs that you're probably feeling a whole lot of burnout, and definitely want to start looking into those self-care things that you can do for yourself and seeking help from your support system. So overcoming this, all the things that we discussed, reduce and manage your stress. Sometimes that's kind of funny, right? We don't all struggle with that, but do everything you can to do that. Exercising regularly, eating a healthy diet, getting quality rest, join a caregiving support group. So obviously you guys already have a huge group right here. Practice self-compassion. So you want to spend a lot of time helping others, but don't forget to help yourself and to have some compassion towards yourself. Practice mindfulness, self-kindness, and also one of the most important things that we can't press upon you enough is setting firm boundaries. What you do is amazing, helping these people, but you also need to know when you need to say no. And then when you need to tell somebody, that's not okay, I'm not going to do that, and this session is done if you have to. Don't allow people to abuse you, but also don't allow them to cross boundaries that you're not comfortable with. This is about you helping them, but this is not about you fixing everything for them. This is about your safety, your well-being. So that's going to be the most important thing that you want to keep in mind while you're helping everybody. So one thing that we do at the Sheriff's Office after a critical incident is we do a debrief. We call it a stress debrief. And this is something that we would recommend to you guys as well. What you do is extremely important, but what you hear and what you take on is heavy. So what I would recommend is having basically a stress debrief after your drive-through prayer sessions. Have a discussion. Is there anything that anybody needs to talk about? Is there anything that's bothering somebody that's still, kind of playing out in your head? Could I have done something differently? Or maybe you need to know about other resources or anything like that. But stress debriefs are super, super important because it allows you to talk about things. It also allows you to hear that other people feel the same things that you're feeling about certain situations. So we highly recommend doing a debrief, and it allows you to kind of get things off of your chest and process things a little bit better and move forward. And most importantly, thank you for what you do. What you do is super important, and it's amazing that you can spend the time to share so much compassion and just helping your community the way that you do. But just don't forget that while you're helping everybody else, to make sure you put yourself first. Is that the last slide? Oh, the next slide, please. So these are 2 suicide lines that we give out to people. Something to maybe take down. I'm sure that Dulcia is going to be able to get some resources as well for you guys. But super important numbers to keep in mind. But most importantly, our whole message to you today, we're running out of time, so I just have to cut this short. But I would just want you guys to all know that the most important thing is your safety and your well-being. So for every amazing thing that you're doing for everybody, at the end of the day, you need to focus on you, your safety, and your well-being. It's most important. Anything above and beyond that, you'll be able to help, but if you can't, that's okay. You need to help yourself first. I don't think there isn't. So at this point, we are ready to take any questions, if anybody has any.
There's a lot of signs of heat stroke, so I don't know if you all heard the question. Working out in the heat, especially here in Arizona, this weekend it's already supposed to be 100 degrees, so I guess summer is already here. So the question was, what are some signs that a person is going into heat stroke or heat exhaustion? Dizziness can be a sign of that. Fatigue, all of a sudden you start to feel very weak. If you're sweating, but yet you feel clammy, those are all signs of heat stroke. Make sure that you're drinking water. Nausea is a sign of heat stroke as well. You want to make sure you're drinking plenty of water, but drinking too much water too fast can also make you sick. So that can also bring on the nausea and some of the same symptoms. It is also a good idea to put some electrolytes in your water, some of those little electrolyte packets that you can get at the grocery store to help prevent that. But those are some of the main signs of heat stroke and heat exhaustion. Anything you want to add? Yeah, there's a lot of signs, but those are some of the most common and main ones that you're going to see. Disoriented, confusion, things like that. Anyone else? Yes. Either one. How do you handle homeless people? Right. So the question is, how do you handle homeless people? In the example was when they come up and maybe ask if you can spare a few dollars, things like that. That's where that list of community resources comes in. You can say, we're not allowed to hand out money here at Drive-Thru Prayer, but I do have this list of resources that would be really helpful to you, and kind of direct them towards that path. Most communities have food banks. A lot of churches have resources for homeless people. A lot of communities have homeless shelters and things like that. But please do not start handing out money, because it's going to be a road you don't want to go down. Oh, gotcha. So he said not necessarily with Drive-Thru Prayer, but just in general. If you're in the grocery store and maybe you're pumping gas and a homeless person approaches you, I would still stick by the same rules. Don't give them money. Just tell them, you know what, I don't have any cash on me, but there is a food bank here that would be a great resource. Or print out some of those community resources to keep in your vehicle or carry with you that you can hand out in situations like that as well. And ma'am, right behind him, you had... Oh, thank you. Thank you. We appreciate that. Yes, sir.
You can blame it on anybody else that you want to. Just tell them, say, we're not allowed to, my boss, so-and-so, or the pastor, doesn't allow us to do that. If anything, there's not a single person here that won't take the blame for that and say, sorry, we don't allow them to do that. So it's just blame it on anybody else. Just, I'm sorry, I'm personally not allowed to do that.
Did you guys hear that, or do you need her to have the microphone? They're not.
We don't want to get in conflict with lawsuit or something like that. Pressure.
Yeah, I would just always stick to just saying we're not allowed. We're not allowed to give rides. We're not allowed to hand out money or cash. We don't keep any cash on us when we're here at Drive-Thru Prayer, but we have these resources that could help you. Any other questions? Yes.
So this is the first time that on part of your presentation, you talk about wearing gloves. And I understand the rationale there, because it's fentanyl, it's very dangerous. So all people with gloves when they're talking to people, right? Right?
I would say just keep them available to you. I would say just have gloves available to you. So make sure that they are in the immediate area so that if somebody says, I have these pills I want to give you, or I found these drugs, or I don't want to take this, I'm trying to get clean, whatever the situation may be. If they try to hand you something, just say, one moment, let me just go get some gloves. And then, yeah, absolutely. Extremely, yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, something to consider for sure. I mean, it can happen in an instant. Yes, that's absolutely true. Oh, yes. I mean, no, there's no guidelines on it. If you offer that to them and they say yes, then by all means, absolutely, that's what we would do in our situation if we were to go help out, even if we were on a scene and dealing, with somebody that was in crisis at that moment. When I go to anything for victim services, my first question is always, is there anybody I can call? So absolutely, yeah, there's nothing wrong with that at all. There's no protocol there or anything that says you shouldn't. Did you have something to add?
If you do call emergency services for that too, it's not just police. The ambulance will come, and if this person has made suicidal statements, the paramedics can get permission from a doctor to commit them, to make them go to the hospital to get help. But yes, if they're willing to let you call a family member, then obviously they're probably going to be more open to that. But if they don't want to go down that road, or you don't feel comfortable going down that road for them, just keep that in mind. When we say call 911, it doesn't just mean that we're going to show up as police. They're going to send fire and ambulance to you as well, and they have the resources and the ability to get them the help that they need. Any other questions? Yes. Right, absolutely. So the question was, there's been a case where there was a lawsuit brought up for pastors or people in prayer being plain amateur psychologists. That's definitely not the message that we want to get across to you today. We're not doctors, we're not trained therapists. Even in our peer support work, if someone comes to us in crisis, we can't help them through the crisis. We just know how to get them the help that they need. And that's what we're trying to convey to you guys. So that's where calling emergency services would come into play. or if you have a list of maybe community resources that are on the therapy side or things like that, if it's not an immediate need. But definitely, you don't want to sit down and try to counsel them through this issue that they're having. None of us in this room that I know of are trained licensed psychologists or therapists. So you definitely don't want to go down that road. Just know what resources are out there and know how to best get them the help that they need in that immediate situation. Yes. Right. I mean, Google is very helpful, but what I would recommend is having somebody at each parish or each church, whether it's your pastor or somebody that works with the church, compile those community resources. In law enforcement, we vet them as well, so we know if there's somebody that works with law enforcement. So maybe you could have somebody at your church kind of call some of these local places and be like, hey, this is what we do. If we run into somebody that needs help, would your office or your practice be a good place for us to send them? And you don't have to compile a list of 30. Just have a handful of them in your area that you could send people to if you need to.
There's absolutely no way for you to come up with a resource list that would ever cover every single thing. So if you can just maybe compile a list that's something like a lot of issues that you seem to run into a lot, whether it's, homelessness or, food or things of that nature, clothing, things of that nature. I mean, it's basically just a simple list that you can come up with that's in your community. Obviously, you guys go to all different kinds of communities. So like she said, go to each of your local churches and see if they can't compile a list for you to use. But handing over a book would probably be not good either, so. Oh, fantastic. Perfect.
Yeah. So check with your local cities as
Yeah.
well. They might already have that list compiled for you.
Yeah. Casa Grande's on top of it. That's fantastic. Yeah, so I mean, I would see if you guys can't get a bunch of those to be able to hand out. Something simple like that. So that would be fantastic. Yes?
There are other organizations, other parts of the state, down in Cochise County, there are legacy foundations, they publish all by category.
Oh,
Check with your local,
yeah, absolutely. You should have no problem being able to come up with a list that's local to you. Any other questions? Oh, okay.
what would be the emergency response number other than 911?
I mean,
It's going to depend on
Yeah.
where you're located. Every police department or sheriff's office has a
Non-emergency,
number.
yeah.
You'll have to find that for your local one.
yeah, I mean, otherwise you would just want to call 911 if it's something that's, borderline emergency or emergency, but otherwise, yeah, each department will have their own non-emergency number that you can call. Yeah, absolutely. Yes, sir. Do you want to answer that? So I'm not allowed to give legal advice or anything like that, but yes, the Good Samaritan law does cover you to be able to do that. Absolutely. Yeah. But just putting it out there, I'm not a lawyer and I don't give legal advice. But yes, sir. Yeah, absolutely. Is there any other questions? Okay. Well, thank you so much, you guys, for letting us come talk.